Welcoming Srimad Bhagavatam in your home is like welcoming Krishna in your home. Supposing the doorbell rang, and you went to the door, and there's Krishna. Oh, please come in. Stay with us. Not just visit and go, but stay with us. The Srimad Bhagavatam is not different than Krishna. Although it's easy to not recognize it, it's not so difficult to recognize it either. That Krishna is non-different than Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different than Krishna. I remember hearing Srila Prabhupada say that if someone simply keeps Srimad Bhagavatam in their home, sees the Srimad Bhagavatam sitting on their bookshelf, and with palms folded offers their respect to Srimad Bhagavatam, even if they don't read it, they just there and respect, great spiritual benefit will come to that person. What to speak of reading? You have some small children, they may not be able to follow so much. However, by reading, my experiences somehow, of course, different children are different individuals are different, but somehow it goes in. And you might be surprised. Some time later, do you remember that story? And then they'll tell you the whole story. Our founder Acharya dedicated so much time to preparing Srimad Bhagavatam for us. And there was, for those that had close association with him, I was not one because I was busy distributing books and living a brahmachari life here and there, traveling and things. But those that were serving Prabhupada closely, when a new book or some books would arrive, everything would stop, whatever it was going on. He gave undivided attention, and he lit up like a Christmas tree. He just radiated joyfulness, big smile, inspecting the book, the quality of the binding and the quality of the art and everything and everything and everything. And there was a reason. In part, it was the reason was it was a major part of his giving Krishna to the world, and thus making people happy and fulfilling the instruction of his spiritual master that made him happy and everybody happy. But he knew it would go on beyond his lifetime. Our lifetimes are very short. I mean, it's significant in one sense, and very short in another sense. And who's even going to remember after some time? I was in Gitanagari over the weekend, and traveling from Gitanagari, the normal route is there's a highway, but there was construction on the highway, so the GPS was taking us at all these other roads. And I was astonished to see how many graveyards between Gitanagari and Virginia. And who knows who those people are? A name on a stone. And Prabhupada lives on in the form of his transcendental literatures. And I thought to read 2 verses from Canto 1, Chapter 5. And the reason for selecting those 2 verses is one of those 2 verses was Prabhupada decided to put it in the introduction or preface? Preface? Introduction or preface? Yeah, preface, that's right. For every Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, there it is. 1.5.11. So but 1.5.11 starts with making a contrast with what's in 1.5.10. One 5.11 begins on the other hand. So let's see what's on the first hand, and then we'll see what's in the other hand. Those 2 this Canto 1, Chapter 5 is Narada's instructions to Vyasadeva on Srimad Bhagavatam. Before it was fully written, Vyasadeva is instructing him to write it. And the kind of literature it should be is what's 1.5.11. And in contrast is 1.5.10. Literature that does not singularly, significantly focus on the personality of Godhead. Nayat vachastitra padam harer yasho jagat pavitram praganita karhachit tadvayasam tirtam ushanti manasa nayatra hangsa niramantya ushik kshaya. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Not very complimentary. What's a pilgrimage place for crows? What's a pilgrimage place for crows? Where do crows go? We don't see too many crows. Where do they go? Trash, yeah. Very good. Have you seen? Yeah. Some time ago, I was taking Panchakarma treatment in Bombay. And somebody provided me with a place to stay. It was a nice little place. Unfortunately, in the early morning hours, it was downwind from a garbage dump. So in the early morning hours, this stinky smell. Bad smell. And the place was just infested with crows. And then later the direction of the wind changed. So that was nice. But there were still the crows because they were attracted to the garbage dump. I won't go into it more. I'll say one more. The sanitary habits of urban people in India is attractive for crows. It's really amazing. I mean, you've all seen it, so you guys haven't seen it. People take, very ceremoniously, they take their trash and just dump it on the street. And then someone else comes and dumps it on the street, and dumps it on the street, dumps it on the street. And here comes the crows, where the garbage dump is. Just on the street. Just on the street. And then sometime in the day or two, somebody comes along with a shovel and takes all that smelly, rotting, stenchy stuff and shovels it into something in a little wheelbarrow and then carts it away. It goes to the next dumping spot, and practically as soon as he's gone, somebody else comes and dumps something else there. It's like a favorite dump spot. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Pilgrimage place for the crows. Place where garbage goes. It's not so complimentary. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. Those are the crows and the swans. While in one sense it's poetic, in another sense it's real. Because we don't find swans in garbage dumps. And we don't find crows in places where swans go. They don't mix. It's not like they're boycotting each other, just they're attracted to different atmospheres somehow by nature's arrangement. And so literature has similar attraction or not. And Srimad Bhagavatam, the instruction of Narada to Vyas, is compose such a literature that's swan-like. Then swans will come. What to speak of transcendental swans or paramahamsas. So here's the Sanskrit for this verse that's in every volume of Srimad Bhagavatam in the preface. Tadvagvasar. If you know the verse, let's say it together. Tadvagvasargo janataraga viplavo yasmin prati shlokam abhadyavatsvapi namanyanantasya yashon kataniyat shinvanti gayanti grananti sadavaha shinvanti gayanti grananti sadavaha. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution. Janata Agha Viplava. Janata, people in general. Agha, sinful. Viplava, kaboom, explosion. Viplava, or revolution in the impious lives of people in this world. That's swan-like literature. So it's transformation of people without killing them. It's changing their hearts. And it's not easy to change the heart, because the orientation of the heart is, we're conditioned. There's certain things we like and certain things we don't like, and we do the things we like. Usually. Sometimes we even do things we don't like. It's a chorus. The sky is falling. Okay, here we go. Such transcendental literatures, directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. there's a nice exchange between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ishwara Puri. You know who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Yes? Ishwara Puri was his spiritual master. And Ishwara Puri was a writer, and he relished very much what he wrote. And one of the ways of relishing something that one who relishes what they write is to discuss it and share it with others, not for self-aggrandizement, just for tasting together with others. So he wrote a book about Krishna. What was the title of the book? Krishna something. Krishna Lilamrita, something like Krishna Bhavanamrita. What was the title of the book? You recall? He was visiting in the village or the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived. And one who had become very attracted because of his exalted character and quality was Gadadhar Pandit. Tomorrow we're going to be honoring the appearance day of Gadadhar Pandit. Tomorrow. So Gadadhar Pandit, from childhood, was very attracted to the mode of goodness and attracted to Krishna. And he was very renounced, very not attracted to other things. You know, many things that young people are attracted to. He just wasn't attracted. He's very gentle, very mild, very enlivened when it came to spiritual topics. So when Ishwara Puri, at this time, he and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were almost the same age. They weren't born in the same place, but almost the same age. And when Ishwara Puri came to visit Navadvip, he was like an iron filing in a magnet. He was attracted to Ishwara Puri. And they would sit together, and Ishwara Puri was very much attracted to the gentle and spiritual quality and character of Gadadhar. And so they bonded, although one is very young and the other was very mature. It just, a transcendental bond developed. And so he would hear from him regularly. And one day, they were walking together along the bank of the river Ganges, and in the distance they saw a large group of students sitting beneath a large shady tree by the bank of the river river Ganges. River Ganges. Shh. Along the bank of the river Ganges. So, Ishwara Puri asked, "Who's that?" "Oh, it's Nimai Pandit." "Oh, that's Nimai Pandit. I've heard about him. I've heard he's very, very good scholar in Sanskrit grammar." So for Ishwara Puri, he said, "Could you introduce me to him? I'd like to meet him." I mean, he's just a young boy, but he's a cultured person. "Can you introduce me?" So he came. Immediately, Nimai Pandit was kind of rambunctious young boy, but he showed his culture that he came before Ishwara Puri, touched his feet, bowed before him, and offered his respects. And he could understand many things. So he said, "Please come have lunch at our home. Mother Sachi, my mother, would be very happy to receive you." So he agreed. And shortly thereafter, Ishwara Puri said, I understand you're a great Sanskrit person. So would you mind, as a service, you can listen as Gadadhar Pandit is doing here, and you can, if you find some mistakes, you can let me know. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, anyone who writes anything about Krishna, even if there's some flaw, there's no flaw. I mean, he didn't say it exactly like that, but one would be a fool to make some criticism or correction of their writing, because it's glorious, which is something similar to what's being said here. Such transcendental literature, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. It's nice if there's elegant composition. Supposing the composition isn't so elegant. Just like our children sometimes make drawings. You're making a drawing? And, from their perspective, it's the best they can do, and someone that's an adult can look at it and go, not so elegant. But when children would show these to Prabhupada, he would smile and say, oh, there's Krishna, see, there's his flute, there's his peacock feather. The artists would bring their paintings to Prabhupada, also kind of shy, and usually, sometimes they're a little proud, but shy, and, asking for Prabhupada's feedback. And he wasn't critiquing so much the elegance, but, the elements that were there. And he had faith, which it proved itself to be true, just by you practice in devotion something, and you practice in devotion something, and you practice in devotion something, and you become very qualified. Krishna gives you the ability to do that something, generally speaking. So composition, it's literary ornaments are nice, but supposing it's not so filled with nice literary ornaments and it's irregularly composed, it's still glorious. Or the artwork of children. There was a young girl that I knew from when she was little, and I hadn't seen her in a long time, and she's now, a young lady. And she said, I forget exactly how it came out, but in the course of growing up, I made many drawings. Can I show you some? And she showed me her drawings. It was like exquisite. I said, how'd that happen? Just practice. Every time during class, I would sit and draw. Sometimes you take notes too. Just draw. A little of both. Okay. So the children, although they're playful and not so attentive, and other things are more important to them than the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, somehow it goes in. What to speak of ourselves, because we're also covered in different degrees. But to move that being covered in the direction of being freed from covering, it's the cleansing process is spiritual sound. What to speak of people that have spiritual elevation and hearing that sound, it's very, very wonderful. We're going to hear this tomorrow. It's just coming to mind. Gadadhar Pandit again. He was very detached, very renounced, and very inclined to Krishna. He just didn't have any attraction for worldly sensuality and things, although he was a young boy. Gadadhar had another friend named Mukunda. And Mukunda heard that Pundarik Vidyanidhi came to Navadvip. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was born in the same village that Mukunda was. So Mukunda knew him from childhood. But he was very, very advanced Vaishnava. But he didn't want people to flatter him or adore him or any of those things. And so he disguised himself. Sometimes people disguise themselves as being madmen, and he disguised himself as being a sense gratifier, surrounding himself with opulence and things. Mukunda knew Gadadhar Pandit's mind, but he also knew Pundarik Vidyanidhi's spiritual quality. He said, I want you to meet somebody. He's from my same village where I came from. And he's a very wonderful Vaishnava. So Mukunda's persuaded Gadadhar, and when they went, he was shocked. He saw him lying on a couch with big pillows and white silk and vessels of different drinks and, lavish clothing and perfumes. And Gadadhar's thinking, why did he bring me here? Let me get out of here. So Mukunda knew both Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Gadadhar. So he sang one verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. We're going to hear it tomorrow. But it's a verse spoken by Shukadeva Goswami about Putana. And he refers to Putana as the younger sister of the Bakasura, Baka demon, Baki. And he says, Sukadeva Goswami, just hearing about the exchange between Krishna and Putana, who is a more loving person, loving qualities of Krishna, who even that Putana approached him as a demoness with the plan to poison him. He accepted the service of mother and gave her a position in the spiritual world, eternally situated as an assistant to Mother Jasoda in the spiritual world. Who is a more worshipable person than him? He sang it because Mukunda was a good singer. And as he sang it, Pundarik Vidyanidhi lost it. He went into a state of ecstatic emotion. His whole body began to convulse. He fell off his seat, knocked over the table with all the drinks, and was rolling on the ground in a state of madness. So Gadadhar could understand. He isn't what he appears to be. And it made a big offense. So when Pundarik, please give me mantra diksha, just like that, because he was such an elevated personality. So persons who are not so spiritually advanced may react or respond differently to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, but those who are spiritually elevated, that's what's being said here. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Thoroughly honest. Sadhavaha, the purified men who are honest. Now there's different meanings, different levels of meanings of honest, but sadhavaha is similar to the same root as sadhu, who are sadhu-like, or those who are attached to the eternal. That's truth and that's honesty is connected to transcendence. And those who are thoroughly connected to transcendence, they delight in such literature. And supposing somebody isn't like that, then it can transform their lives. Janata, Agha, the misdirected civilization. That's a nice way to translate Janata, Agha. People are just sinful. And in this world, without going into it too much, piety is pretty hard to find. I mean, even people that are pious, some of the foundational things of their life are sinful. Some aren't, but some are. It's tough. And that's the world we live in. So what to do? What the Prabhupada's vision, what to do was propagate Srimad Bhagavatam. Speak it, Shrinvanti, hear it, propagate it, let people become sanctified by hearing the Bhagavatam's message. And we all need it. Who doesn't? Kaler doshinad he rajan hyasta eka hat mahan gunam kirtanadeva krishnasya bhukta sangasya. So, in this age of Kali, it's very difficult. Very difficult. Very difficult. Especially when the standard of what is pure becomes a little more clear. It's difficult. And one of the principal means is the Srimad Bhagavatam for making that different. It was the contribution or the commitment of Vyasadeva, who was a seer of the future, past, present, and future. He's one of those rare souls that can see everything perfectly, past, present, and future. And looking at the coming age, bad. Manda samanda matayo, manda bhagya upadrata. Bad and bad and bad and bad and bad and bad. So what to do? So he did what he knew how to do best. He knew how to compose literature, so he composed. First he just took the Vedas and put them in a written form, but then he also did his own writing in the form of Vedanta Sutra, and then the composition of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not creative writing, it's not imaginative writing, but it's Purana that has Krishna at the center. That's the instruction of Narada to him. Write that kind of literature, not the other kind. The pilgrimage for crows kind. I'm going to read a little bit from the purport. The purport is a page and a half paragraph. And then there's 2 more paragraphs. It is a qualification of the great thinkers to pick up the best, even from the worst. That's a swan. Paramahamsa. It is said that the intelligent man should pick up nectar from a stock of poison, should accept gold even from a filthy place, should accept a good and qualified wife even from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the untouchables. A good lesson. These are some of the ethical instructions for everyone. It's Chanakya Pandit being paraphrased. In every place without exception. But a saint is far above the level of an ordinary man. He is always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord, because by broadcasting the holy name and fame of the Supreme Lord, the polluted atmosphere of the world will change. And as a result of propagating the transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions. Somebody asked a question. You know, the chanting of the holy name is very broad and wide. So how far does it go? That's a nice question. You know, the response, I remember the response, I said, the 24-hour kirtan in Vrindavan, how far and wide does it go? Does it touch us over here? Or what we're doing right now, how far and wide in the city of Naperville, what to speak of the world, is this because we're just reciting Srimad Bhagavatam and reading the Bhaktivedanta purports. So how far and wide does it go? That's a nice question. Nice meditation. However far and however wide it goes, it's purifying at least for the persons who are hearing and the atmosphere in which we're sitting. So it's the sanctification of your house just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, sitting together and having kirtan. etc. And as a result of the propagation of this transcendental literature, like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions, well prepared. So Prabhupada goes into there was a conflict while he was writing the purport between India and China over the tract of land that's uninhabitable, and it's still an issue. Big issue. The reason is, yet we see that previously there were both China and India, and they had both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling. The reason is that they lived in those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness, and every country over the surface of the world was God-fearing, pure-hearted, and simple. And there was no question of political diplomacy. There is no cause for quarrel between the two countries, China and India, over land which is not very suitable for habitation. And certainly, there's no cause for fighting on this issue. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there's always a chance of quarrel on slight provocation. This is due not to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Systematically, there is propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there's a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It is the duty of every responsible Indian. We're not responsible. But those of you that are Indian, you're responsible. To broadcast the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world, to do all the supermost good, as well as to bring about the desired peace in the world, because India has failed in her duty by neglecting this responsible work. There is so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart, and naturally the people in general will follow them. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of modern politicians and leaders of the people. If there is a change in the heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature, conveying transcendental messages for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere, is fraught with many difficulties. And there's another half a page, that this one first paragraph. Prabhupada's on a roll here. Our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail. And there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and the leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. When there is a fire in the house, the inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors, who may be foreigners, and yet without knowledge, without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves, and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. After all, it is a technical science of spiritual values, and thus we are concerned with the techniques and not with the language. if the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people in the world, there will be success. Prabhupada is pointing us to what we should be paying attention to when we're hearing. The spirit, not the letter. The letter is important, but it's not the essence. So again, the essence is Shrinvanti, Gayanti, Grananti. Hear, chant, and receive the transcendental message. The numbers of people in the world, the numbers of people in Naperville, and the numbers of people in the world that are becoming attracted to the Srimad Bhagavatam's message, it's growing. And so it's beneficial simultaneously for the individuals or the families that take that up within their lives, and beneficial for everybody as well, as that spiritual vibration becomes more circulated or spread. The atmosphere changes, or at least the potential of the atmosphere is there to change. Just traveling here, I came from the Ronald Reagan Airport in Washington, D.C. And 3 people, the security people, when I was checking in, not security. First was just a check-in counter, and then when they check your ID and see those kind of things, and then passing through the screen. Those three people all said, "Are you a priest?" I don't get asked that too often, but are you a priest? I said, "No, I'm a monk." Because we just had this retreat in Gitanagari, meet a monk. And then I looked at him and said, "I'm a Krishna monk." And the fellow nodded and said, "Oh, ISKCON." It's just, a guy the message is going out and about, and so there's 2 things, 3 things. Shrinvanti, Gayanti, Grananti. We do that for our own benefit and simultaneously for the benefit of others. We should reach out and propagate, but we should also internalize. And then we make a best effort as well to take care, to give guidance and good association, etc., to those who are taking of the process of hearing and chanting. That's a devotee care message, by the way, in case you didn't catch it. Purify, propagate, and care for those who are in coming to the stage of trying to live a life of devotion to Krishna, in the process of remembering what we've forgotten. To try to do that ourselves, to try to help other people, and to take good care of those who are in that journey. It's a full-time occupation. So as you grow up, you have your life's work ahead of you. And it's a nice life. Spiritual life is a nice life. With good wholesome association, good guidance, transcendental literature, of course the holy name, and worship, the big temple project that everybody knows all about because we've heard about it again and again. Beat the drum, blare the trumpet, coming up shortly. Some devotees have worked really hard for this. But there's some things that are just really important. Building temples are really important. Here's just a little sharing. I was really surprised. When in Gitanagara, I spent some time with the president and his wife, Dhruva and Parijata. And they shared something with me that was like, what? He said, once a week, the temple president in Potomac drives to Gitanagara to pick up the milk to bring back to Potomac for the temple and for the congregation. He said, wait a minute, she's busy building a temple. And they said, every week. She didn't send somebody, she comes herself. No, I'm not going to tell Premananda. Premananda's near her. You don't have to ask anything. She's talking about it. She's absorbed, which is wonderful. What a meditation. And Nanda Vrindavan is doing all of that and driving to get Gitanagara to get milk. Ahimsa milk. Without, you not just like send somebody, doing it herself every week. Amazing. So there's time for, we're busy people, but there should be time for Krishna Bhakti and the hearing and chanting and bringing within the Krishna's message. We must have time for it, because that's our human life, is to cultivate like that. And it's such a valuable gift. Sometimes valuable gifts come so easily we don't appreciate them as much as we could and should. But it's such a valuable gift. So we're here to honor Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam making appearance in your home. Let's see if there's some discussion. We'll have RT for Srimad Bhagavatam and get ready for the temple opening. Couple of days. Yeah.
3 things, Guru Maharaj. So one is, as you are saying about Srimad Bhagavatam, the goal for this Bhadra Purnima was announced. Last year it was 45,000, so this year it was announced 55,000.
This year for which geographic area?
North America.
North America.
And
did the bell ring?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Wow.
It was announced. So we did 200 sets with your blessings and mercy. We are praying to do 400 sets this year. Doubling up with your blessings.
Better have a lot of friends.
And
understand what Prabhupada says in this purport and many others. It's the duty of those born in India to propagate this message all around the world. Go ahead.
And we are very much thankful for Gopal Hari Prabhu's presence. He has been really like inspiring and rolling and rocking in book distribution last month or more than that.
How does he rock and roll? Does he push you guys?
Not yet, Guru Maharaj. He was only doing himself. So we are praying for him to push others also. He does. We have a table at Patel Brothers store, grocery store. So we keep a table for an hour or 2 in the evenings.
Every evening?
Yeah.
Every evening?
Yeah, like we can go every evening, but we are going 3-4 days a week at this point. And Prabhu has been going and giving a lot of books and calling them to Bhagavad Gita classes, and then he distributed around maybe 6,000 or close to $10,000 worth of books in the last few months. So we really like keeping that.
What did the Patel brothers have to say about that?
And because of his charm, they are able to handle it.
Maybe they want to put some on their Patel brothers' shelf. Huh? Okay.
The devotees are doing to non-Indian. I'm doing the easy one. The Indians are very accepting.
It takes creativity and innovativeness. How to. At the same time, it's very important because for all the messages we understand. It's just a little report from Gita Nagri. There were a group of 100 and a group of 100 people, 2 weekends. The first group was people that didn't know anything, and the second group was people who already attended one. Primarily, there were some people that also very new. And maybe 90% were other than Indian background. Somehow. And it worked really well. And everybody got a Bhagavad Gita, and everyone got a set of beads, and it was a very good experience. And there's plan for following up. Where is he? Is your husband here?
He went out of town for work today.
Okay. Well, he was on a Zoom call a little while ago.
Yes.
Okay. So what were the Bhagavad Gita class and something that you're doing with them? Empathic communication seminar. How many people signed up from the 2 weekends? 18. Nice. So find some devotees that have an innovative way of, summer's coming, and so an idea, a suggestion, is going with the table to some of those events, and just smile. I mean, it's not magic. People want to find out. There is curiosity for sure. It takes a little social nuance to be able to capture people, but it's not so difficult. And it's very rewarding, isn't it? Because you know it's pleasing to our founder Acharya, and their hearts are being touched. Now, what's going to happen after they take the book? Are they going to read it, etc., etc.? You don't know, but their life there's a change just by touching the book and taking it with them, etc. Something else? How about you? Anything? This boy in your lap. Were you able to understand what we just spoke about? Not much, huh? Okay. Yes.
Guru Maharaj,
Yeah.
what's the right way of doing japa?
What's the what?
What's the right way of doing japa?
The right way.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So there's not exactly a right way as opposed to a wrong way. Anyway, but as far as possible, with attention, and it's kind of like a lifelong project. It's not a short-term project. Attentiveness, chanting with attention. And one of the keys for attention is to hear. Say it negatively. If you're not hearing, you're not being attentive. Say it positively. If you're hearing, you're attentive. I'm sure if with a question like this, you come to the Festival of the Holy Name, we'll go into it for a few days. The right way. Anything else? Yes? Yes?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Gurudev, I have one question.
One.
Now, we are kind of like devotees, but how we can be good or more committed devotees? How we can be, what should we do to be
What should you do to become a more committed?
committed or sincere? we all are busy doing work and
Yeah, we're all busy.
just to see how different techniques or how we can be more kind of committed.
But start from the heart. I mean, I was thinking when one of the ways to answer your question the right way is from the heart. But how to get to the heart. So techniques are useful, or tools are useful, but the heart is what's going to make something that's useful be effective. So what some techniques or tips or tools starts at the heart level. So now we had one whole theme of one festival of the Holy Name was chanting from the heart. There's 2.5 days of what does it mean and how do you get there. So I listen to the recordings. But one of the things that we spoke about this weekend was one step at a time. Supposing that because your question itself is from the heart, otherwise you wouldn't ask it. You're somewhere and you want to be, whatever is beyond somewhere, and how do you, what and how. So my response is having that desire is essential, and that can drive the rest of the going somewhere. But if that isn't, that comes and it goes. And because when it goes, when we get distracted or get worried or get an anxiety or get fearful or get something, the mind just takes us to some other space. And then we have to bring the mind back. But so the essential is the desire to go to the place of devotion, and especially because we're really busy. So some step at a time method by something that you know from your subjective experience gives you strength, spiritual strength, whatever that might be. For different people, it's different things. Essential is the chanting of the holy name. So commit some time daily to do it when he's asking, the right way or with attention. It doesn't have to be something big. It's something that you do every day. Now I'm quoting, paraphrasing Patanjali Yoga Sutras. But we discussed it. It's very simple. Practice. And it doesn't have to be something big. It's something that you do every day for a prolonged period of time with faith. That's practice. Every day for a prolonged period of time with faith. I mean, those aren't the exact translations, but it keeps it simple. So something that you do that gives you that spiritual strength, you do that every day for a prolonged period. So some people it's like kirtan. Some people it's Bhagavad Gita. Some people it's reciting prayers. Some people it's puja. Some people it's distributing prasadam. But something that, or a few somethings, and you do something every day. And then consider, okay, now that I've been able to do that every day for some prolonged period of time, what's the next step? So little steps, and then and also having a sense of where you want to go. So as you start getting stronger, you're going to want to have a greater clarity about where you want to go. When you get on a train, it's good to know where the train's going. Because lots of trains. So the bhakti train, what's on the other end? Whoa, that's really far away. So, but at least, keep the goal in mind. And then strive for it. It's an inward cultivation that has some external behaviors connected with the internal cultivation. The mood of being in service, that's pleasing to Krishna. So that's another topic we spoke about, mindfulness. That was one of the main themes, mindfulness. So when you're doing what you're doing, don't just do, just everyday things. You're brushing your teeth, or you're, walking somewhere. You do some exercise. Mindfulness towards the ultimate purpose of life, even while you're doing those little simple things. You like reading? I thought so. So read, and then read in the association of others that also like to read, because when you read in the association of others that like to read, there'll be some discussion. This is my realization, and they share their realization, and you appreciate, oh, that was a nice realization. I missed it. Anyway, through that's sadhu sangha. Katayantash chamam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. What devotees do together that gives them enlivenment, spiritual strength, and you just keep doing that a little bit over a long period of time. With faith, it's not just because you like it, with faith that it's going to draw my attention more to the eternal, more towards Krishna. And there's time, even we're busy, and a little less absorption in the temporary. It's with a different mood, even when dealing with the temporary. Mainly hearing, Shravanam, same here, Shrinvanti Gayanti, Grananti. If you develop a liking for Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, you're in good shape for going, what your question, going further and discussing with others, then trying to apply it. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was wondering, sometimes we meet people who have been reading Srila Prabhupada's books. They've read like a few chapters, and we invite them to the temple or to some program, and they continue reading, but they're not interested in the programs or interested in taking it from theory to practice. And I was just reading one place, Srila Prabhupada saying, anyone who reads my books, they become devotees. Anyone who reads Srimad Bhagavatam, they become devotees. So are we to understand that anyone who reads these books, they will one day become devotees?
They're becoming devotees. There's different stages, and there are different paces, but they're becoming devotees. It's part of, supposing, borrowing from Burijan, the Lord Chaitanya's teaching is, by chanting of the holy name, the mirror of the mind becomes cleansed. Chaita Darpana Marjanam. So why am I not experiencing that? And his answer is, maybe the dust that's accumulated is 3 miles thick. It's going to take some time. Some people have less, some people have more, but the purification is going on absolutely nonetheless. So they're becoming devotees. And how quickly, that's another factor to consider. Where they're coming from, how attentive are they when they're doing, how many other non-devotional things are in the mix of their lives, and so forth. Is that satisfying? So such persons should just be encouraged to continue with patience and conviction. It's a mystical microphone. It only works when you press the button.
On the point of Srimad Bhagavatam is appreciated by men who are thoroughly honest.
Yeah, I like that phrase.
Yes. You started speaking about different levels of the meaning of honesty. And I'm wondering if you would be willing to elaborate on the refinements and the subtleties of honesty, because one way to look at honesty is speaking the truth.
That's one level of honesty for sure.
And we understand from Krishna's instruction to Yudhishthira Maharaj to tell a lie that there are many refinements to speaking the truth even. Or another New Agey way of looking at honesty is be authentic. And sometimes that means, in the conditioned state, we're authentic to our conditioned self rather than authentic in the true sense of who we are. So I'm wondering if you would please elaborate, because honesty can have a very...
Subjective.
Yes, please.
Well, there's worldly truth, and that's not so subjective, and then there's transcendental truth that's not so subjective. And then there's somewhere in between. So the conventional sense of truth, speaking the truth, I mean, truth has a transcendental sense, and the absolute truth means what? And that's absolute. That's not subjective. That from which everything comes. That's another sense of truth, and the absolute sense of truth. And one who makes that connection, that's the higher sense or the transcendental sense of what is truth. Thus, Krishna instructing Arjuna to kill and Yudhishthira to lie is truth, because it's connected to the absolute truth. And one who connects to the absolute truth, that's honesty. That's one who's thoroughly honest. Thoroughly, not partially or subjectively. Now, normally we don't speak of truth or honesty in those terms. But since you're asking, can you expand on it? Because it's subjective. There are different ways of defining things, different ways of defining honesty. And the transcendental sense of honesty is that which connects one to the absolute truth. Then it means I need to know what the absolute truth is, and I need to know that which the absolute truth is wanting of me. So Guru, Sadhu, Shastra are criterion for knowing that. And when Krishna says, then that's it. That's honesty. That's truth. Then it gets subtle. The codes of one who follows the codes of Dharma is situated in honesty. Then there's codes of Dharma that seem to be in conflict with other codes of Dharma. I was just spending some time the last couple of days on Hanuman's journey across the sea and the 4 obstacles he met. And the 4th of the 4 obstacles he met was Lankini. And what Lankini did was, when she saw him, she challenged him and she hit him hard. And he punched her. Or, no, that's not Dharma, but it is Dharma. He's not a violator of Dharma. Or with the first of the demons that Ram had to kill was Tataka. And there's a whole section where Vishwamitra Muni knows the character of Ram is he won't violate Dharma, so he gives a very thorough explanation of why it's not Dharma to kill her. Kill her. And one of the reasons he does is, my father said to do whatever you said. So you better have the right person that you're hearing from to do whatever they say. But in his case, Vishwamitra said, and his father said, and Vishwamitra gave the reasons why it's not opposed to Dharma. And I'm instructing you, immediately kill her. So that was his first thing of the demons he'd had to deal with. So there are subtleties. There are principles of Dharma that seem to be in conflict with other principles of Dharma. So that's on the Dharma side. So then honesty, the absolute standard of honesty is to connect with the absolute truth, and therefore the absolute truth standard for honesty is that which comes from the personality of Godhead. And Krishna is speaking to Yudhishthira. You can't get more absolute than that. And it was to teach a lesson. The higher principle of morality is to follow the personality of Godhead's instruction, not the worldly sense of what's morality, the transcendental sense. But then it takes a transcendentalist to understand and not imitate or imagine something. That's a lot of sound vibration. To summarize in distilled little sutra, honesty is connecting with the absolute truth. That's the highest standard of honesty. And then there's codes of Dharma that are given by the same Supreme Person, and they're to be followed. Unless there's some standard of understanding that comes from that same absolute truth that says otherwise, and then that's honesty. That's the final standard of honesty. For most of us, the conventional sense is something we should follow. That's Brahminical. You want something further on this? Okay.
There are millions of universes and Lord Brahmas and Vishnu. But what about Mahadev?
What about?
Mahadev.
Mahadev? There's many of him too, for each universe. And he can also expand into many forms. You know about the 11 Rudras? No? You've heard about the Rudra? No? Rudra means anger. When Lord Shiva appeared from the brow of Lord Brahma, that Lord Shiva expanded into 11 Rudras. And those 11 Rudras started destroying the universe that Brahma had just built. You got to pay attention. You asked a question. Oh, yeah, okay, no, okay. So, and then they started to attack Brahma. So what did Brahma say? Stop. Go meditate. When it's time for destruction of the universe, I'll call you. Don't worry. So you wanted to know what about Rudra or what about Lord Shiva? There's many places where Lord Shiva resides. Simultaneously, there are many places where Lord Shiva resides. Is that okay? Good. Yes. We have a little portable microphone over here.
So, you said that when, like, even if you're distracted or something, like, you don't have a, like, your mind's disrupted or something, you still hear Bhagavatam. It's like, the message still goes inside you. But, like, so I heard somewhere, or in Srimad Bhagavatam, that if you don't have a pure mind, like, there's no point for reading it. So, which one's right?
Really? I guess I better stop, huh? You and I can go off in a corner somewhere, no one is watching, and we'll, even we don't have a pure mind, we'll read together. And we'll still get some benefit, right? So you want to know how to put those two statements together. That's the question. Well, I want to see the exact wording, but regardless of the exact wording, one won't be able to fully realize if the mind is not pure, but it's not a waste of time. I won't get a full realization of Krishna. But how do I get my mind pure? Is contacting Krishna. Contacting the Supreme Pure, the mind becomes pure. At least the potential is there. So let me do that which has the potential so I can get a pure mind, so I get the full realization. That's my answer to your, how do you reconcile these two things? It's sadhana, in other words. And for the sadhaka, for this little interruption, for a sadhaka, we're not pure, but we're trying to become pure. And the process of sadhana for the sadhaka is to gradually bring purity. You know the verse, Cheta Darpana Marjanam. I mentioned it already, but I'm sure you're familiar. It's cleansing the mind. Cleansing the mind, cleansing the mirror of the mind. Cheta Darpana Marjanam. So we won't get the full effect until the mind is pure. But to purify, we do that which is purifying by contacting the Supreme Pure. That's my answer to your question.
If you, like, in your mind, if you hate Krishna, but you're still reading Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah. You bet. Let's get together and read together. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.